Anne Muagela is about to cook a meal for her children. She is one of the 2 billion people, a third of the world's population, who have no access to electricity. Instead, they must burn wood or dried animal dung in their homes. The indoor smoke this creates is the deadliest form of pollution in the world. According to the World Health Organization, 4 million children under the age of 5 die each year from respiratory diseases caused by indoor smoke, and many millions of women die early from cancer and lung disease for the same reason.
If you were to ask a rural person to define development, they'll tell you, yes, I'll know I've moved to the next level when I have electricity. Actually, not having electricity creates such a long chain of problems, because the first thing you will miss is the light. So you get that they have to go to sleep earlier, because there's no light, there's no reason to stay awake.
No refrigeration or modern packaging means that food cannot be kept. A fire in the hut is too smoky and consumes too much wood to be used as heating. There is no hot water. We in the West cannot begin to imagine how hard life is without electricity. The life expectancy of people who live like this is terrifyingly short, their existence impoverished in every way. Africa has coal, and Africa has oil. But environmental groups are campaigning against the use of these cheap sources of energy. Instead, they say Africa and the rest of the developing world should use solar and wind power. A short drive out of Nairobi, we find our first solar panel. To a clinic which serves several villages. Electricity is provided by 2 solar panels.
What happens when you put lighting plus the refrigerator and others? What happens?
It sounds an alarm.
The solar panels allow Dr. Samuel Mwangi to use either the lights or the refrigerator, but not both at the same time. If he does, the electricity shuts down. Wind and solar power are notoriously unreliable as a source of electricity and are at least 3 times more expensive than conventional forms of electrical generation.
If it's expensive for the Europeans, if it's expensive for the Americans, and we are talking about poor Africans, it doesn't make sense. The rich countries can afford to engage in some luxurious experimentation with other forms of energy. But for us, we are still at the stage of survival.
If we're telling the third world that they can only have wind and solar power, what we are really telling them is you cannot have electricity.
It's how we can have Africa industrialized. Because I don't see how a solar panel is going to power a steel industry, how a solar panel is going to power maybe some railway train network. It might work maybe to power a small transistor radio.
I think one of the most pernicious aspects of the modern environmental movement is this romanticization of peasant life. And the idea that industrial societies are the destroyers of the world.
There's somebody keen to kill the African dream, and the African dream is to develop.
The environmental movement has evolved into the strongest force there is for preventing development in the developing countries.
If you're being told, don't touch your resource, don't touch your oil, don't touch your coal, that is suicide.
I think it's legitimate for me to call them anti-human. Like, okay, you don't have to think humans are better than whales, right? But surely it is not a good idea to think of humans as sort of being scum. That it's okay to have hundreds of millions of them go blind or die or whatever. I just can't relate to that.